All right, well, hey, everybody. Let me start by just apologizing for how my voice might sound. I am a week and a half into having COVID, and I am not better yet. So stay safe out there. Anyway, so when I named an episode Run It Back a few weeks ago, I was continuing to play on all of the sports language that I've been learning to traffic in lately. To run something back means to do the same play again. And I was toying around with that theme of going back and changing things, like, in life. Not in the podcast. And yet, listening back to that show, there are a bunch of places where I wasn't happy with what I'd written. Not happy with the way I told stories and laid out arguments, and I realized that my episode title was sort of accidentally prophetic. Today's episode is a second draft. The interview clips are different, I liked those, but the pieces in between are a rewritten take on what I was trying to say before. Is that cool? Are we allowed to do this? Yes? Okay, well, let's run it back.
Now tuned into the motherfucking greatest.
Do me one favor. Take a few steps back.
Turn the music up in the headphones.
Look at yourself.
I got you.
Matter of fact, take yourself outside your body and then look at yourself.
We ain't got click by myself. Couldn't be little myself. Couldn't be all we can tell. I just be weary as hell. I had to feel for myself. Had to get low like the jail pose. Check me to lose a tail, bro. I would skip over the hellhole. I had to vision myself. It caught me at a standstill. I picked up a penny and left. I picked up the clips of the step, singular current event. Everything we in the midst of. How long you waving a rent?
When I was 13 years old, a few things were happening. The Blair Witch Project, which was released the year before, it had reached maximum meme-level public consciousness. I had not actually seen it, but that didn't matter because, I still got it. Meanwhile, two of the biggest shows on MTV, at least for me, were Jackass and Making the Video. I watched those basically nonstop. I had already been a movies and music obsessed kid, but suddenly, primarily because of this stuff, the tools and the means of producing my own work seemed democratized and accessible. I knew I could do it. I got my hands on a video camera right away. And long before my amateur productions were worthy of showing anyone, I was figuring out how to put them in front of an audience. That was the most important part anyway. I started hijacking TVs at school during breaks, and then I got more official. I started asking to create videos for every available school project. This was still pretty novel at the time, so everybody always said yes. Then, I even emailed the director of a local public access TV station, who sounded supportive of putting my videos on the air. Now, he didn't know that I primarily filmed my friends getting injured on skateboards, but it didn't matter. I didn't follow through on that part right away. I was always losing custody of my borrowed video cameras or accidentally breaking them. I couldn't quite figure out how to make this a regular gig yet. That will come soon.
I could run it back, run it back, run it back, run it back. Hi, kids. Do you like violence? Wanna see me stick 9-inch nails to each one of my eyelids? Wanna copy me and do exactly like I did? 99% of my life I was lied to.
All right, well, what's your favorite song? I know this is a really hard question to ask somebody like you.
Well, so I wrote down a list of 30, and then I had to narrow it down to one. Mm-hmm. And so I went with what I'm not embarrassed to say, but I'd like to explain myself.
You absolutely, the floor is yours.
Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen.
Yeah,
a song. I mean, it's a fantastic song. I think that it is very misunderstood by many of the artists who perform it.
Oh yeah, they definitely sing it like they're singing a church song.
Or not even that exactly, but the meaning of a hallelujah in general, right? It's specifically, and this is why Leonard Cohen's so brilliant, it's specifically not to be about you. And a lot of these singers end up singing it about them, or they sing it as a hallelujah about them. And it's this kind of confusing thing. And I think Leonard Cohen is one of the only people who was able to, I mean, obviously he's the one who wrote it, sing it in the way that it was intended to be. And so when I listened to the Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, I mean, we could talk about how incredible the chords and the words are and all that. but in the performance itself, I think is what makes that song so incredible. It takes a lot of a performer to get themselves out of the way to be able to perform it perhaps the way that it was intended.
Well, Leonard Cohen is like a big Buddhist, right? So it's interesting that would be like a decentering of the self thing would be important there. I just think that there's something very unique about his delivery in general. And it's funny because he's one of these guys who has like 4 different voices over the course of his career. Yeah. And Hallelujah is already past. Like, I think when I think about Leonard Cohen, I think the first couple songs I ever heard were like Dress Rehearsal Rag and like Chelsea Hotel. Yeah. And so everything else I hear, I kind of compare to like that voice. But I don't even know if Hallelujah comes before or after, but he's kind of on his way to something else. And you later on in life, because then you get like growly spoken word Leonard Cohen later on.
Yeah, he's pretty close to that with Hallelujah, though. He's like on his way.
Yeah. It's like a halfway mark between the two.
I'm gonna sing every third line, but speak most of them. Mm-hmm. It's a cool balance.
I also feel like I have a harder, so like lots of songs make me think of things, like for whatever reason. I'm like, when I hear like Dress Rehearsal Rag, it makes me think of like Dustin Hoffman in the 70s. I don't even know like what movie I'm picturing, but like that's the grainy film look that I'm like hearing. Yeah. But with Hallelujah, it's funny because it's got some of those like keyboards that are very like of that time, and you kind of forget when you like in your head, in your like memory of that song, you don't hear like Top Gun keyboards, but like they're in there, and it's so funny how it's like, why don't I remember that when I think of that song? I don't know.
Yeah. What do you remember with Hallelujah? Like when you hear it?
I think I remember, what I think about is I think about his voice and the way it almost sounds like a vocal performance, like acting or something. And I may have not heard that version first. Like I might have heard like Rufus Wainwright's version first or something.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah. Which was probably like, because I was really into Rufus Wainwright, but I think he did that for like the Shrek soundtrack or some shit, right? So it's funny that I don't think I knew, because I don't think I've ever seen Shrek. But I definitely I knew it was attached to something weird culturally. But it's, I don't know, I guess I was so surprised by the Leonard Cohen version of it.
Surprised. That's good. It is jarring to hear, especially after hearing more of these sing-songy versions of it.
Yeah. And it's funny because you're like, that melody, that like music textbook melody version of the way people sing it is there in the way he's singing it, but he also is doing more than that.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing. I guess I never really thought of myself as someone who thought a lot about like voices and lyrics, because I often have a hard time remembering them. But when I think back about songs and other things too, I often think about the way things are said. It's really weird, but I was like listening to a podcast yesterday where they're talking about the movie Inglourious Bastards, and they mentioned something about the way Brad Pitt says, "I was just thinking that" at one point, and I was like, I remember exactly how. I haven't watched the movie in 6 or 7 years. I remember exactly how he said that.
One time, feel good, yeah, y'all. Bust the rhymes in the place, y'all. Nigga, you feel real good, y'all. Flip Moses squad in the place, y'all. Buck wild to all of my niggas who don't care. Flows like a bunch of young black millionaires. Making you run, me and my gun, stacking my ones. Flows a little invest up in the mutual fund. Blowing the horn, a sense of every day of his born. Never dream I see a nigga landscaping my lawn. Dangerous, my nigga should be accurate. Have to get the flow be so immaculate. Hey yo, watching my dough, sipping my mo. Sipping it slow, them pretty bitches saying hello. Anyway, go ahead and display your olive ole. Little honey dip whipping a little cabriolet. I don't mean to hold you up, but I got something to say. Swear to only give you hot shit every day. Afraid of us, you know this ain't a game to us. You strange to us, that's when we getting dangerous. Come on.
When I was 15 years old, a few things were happening. I was friends with older kids who could now drive. I had a few summer and weekend jobs, so I had a little spending money. I was in a band, and I was a straight A student who was deeply and creatively involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, so I had a lot of latitude. The stars were really aligned for me. Probably also key, I was not interested in drugs or drinking at all. I was only interested in making things. So I learned that my high school had an independent study program that meant you could get school credit for self-designed programs. So I immediately pitched that my friends and I create an independent study at the public access TV station, which was run out of a vocational education building next to the school anyway. I was allowed to do this, despite the fact that the school actually had a proper multimedia class that would have gone along a lot of the same lines, and that was primarily because of a loophole in the school's grading system. See, multimedia was a vocational ed program like taking auto repair or carpentry, and it was classified as a standard level class, which meant that even an A in that class was a GPA score of, I think, like 3.0. Honors and AP classes topped out at 4.0, and independent studies were at the middle tier, called college tech prep. An A in one of those classes was a 3.5. It's awful, I know, but kids like me were allowed to skirt the rules to minimize the damage to our GPA. That was the initial justification anyway. I did plenty of damage to my GPA by taking, I think, like 10 independent studies at the TV station over the course of my 4 years in high school. That was most of my senior year. I was just there all day. Also, I never really got why you would brag about a GPA anyway, because every school weighted them so differently. I did, of course, brag about my 760 verbal SAT.
I actually feel, honestly, often quite isolated by the interests I pursue and kind of the academic background I come from. It's not reflected in the friends that I have or in the place that I work or anything like that. It's certainly not the place I live.
So what do you feel like you have in common with the people that are your friends, if not those kind of interests?
Wow. I really don't know. I don't know that I really have much of anything in common with the people that are my friends, other than if we enjoy each other's company.
Right. I mean, I have friends like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends where there's not necessarily a lot that we... Sometimes it turns out we've, like, watched the same TV show or something, and I'm always a little surprised by that, you know? But otherwise, yeah, it's almost like...
It's just rapport. It's just that it's just familiarity and comfort. We have, like, zero common cultural reference points, but we just
being a good talker.
Exactly, we're at ease with each other.
Yeah, that's definitely something that because every once in a while you actually I guess now that you mention it, I think I do probably have, I mean, all my friends that I grew up with were people that I kind of did creative things with, but very few of them continued to care about that stuff beyond like a certain point in college. And yet I still obviously get along with those people, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes you get together, it's been a while since I've seen some of these people, but sometimes you get together and you do kind of just like run out of runway for like what to talk about, and you're like, you know, and then there are other people where you feel like that would never happen.
Yeah.
Like you're always running out of time. Interesting. So, all right, so we've talked about friendship and loneliness. That's good.
Yep.
Yeah, the movie I'm watching right now is The Card Counter. It's
I love
Schrader
that.
movie.
That was really good.
Yeah. I was thinking about how funny it is to be watching a movie about a guy who's like likes to stay in bare rooms and cover every single surface and just like sit by himself and write in his journal. It's like, wow, I could not have picked a more appropriate movie to put on today.
That was a movie I really enjoyed watching, but had a great deal of difficulty parsing, for the most part, what was happening or being said in that, you know? Like, for example, the covering the surfaces. I was struggling to come up with, like, what that means in the context of the film.
Yeah, I know. Like, is he just a germaphobe? What's the deal?
Yeah.
It's one of those, it's like an image that feels culturally resonant, but doesn't necessarily, I'm not totally sure where to connect it to the story yet.
Like, is it something as simple as covering over the surface of something with, like, a uniform, smooth, surface itself, almost like whitewashing something in the way that, like, that's what we did to the Iraq War, the various other atrocities or horrors committed? Like, is it something that basic, or is there's more going on there?
I think there's a little bit of I think that's actually the second level. I think the first level of the blank room is just that he's almost recreating a prison cell.
Yeah.
But so I've been, I mean, obviously I saw Taxi Driver like back in the day, but I've been very interested in these kind of like this current trilogy that Paul Schrader is working on, which is I have not seen First Reformed because it's one of those it's one of those ghost movies that slips between every streaming service. Yep. And so it's on my list, right? As soon as it pops up, I'll watch it. But in the meantime, the card counter's here, and then Master Gardener is the third one, and the third and final one. So I'm interested in it. It's like one of those things I knew I was gonna like, so I didn't even need to watch a trailer. Just kind of jumped right in.
Yeah, there's so many great movies that it's like I've been wanting to watch for years, and just for whatever reason, you don't. That First Reform's definitely one of those.
I'm like trying to get my attention span back. I'm using a little bit of this for it. Like seeing how long I can sit and like watch a movie without like checking my phone or something, because it's not really possible most of the time when you're like a parent, right? Like Christy and I sit down to watch something. Sometimes it's like 9:30, and sometimes you're getting up to check on kids a couple of times. Depending on what's going on, like rolling off of beds and standing up in the middle of the night and talking and all that stuff. So, your lifestyle ends up creating this, like, watching everything in 20-minute bursts. But I don't think I could go back, like right now. I don't have the ability, so I'm trying to, like, build that muscle back up.
Yes, yeah.
I went for a walk today because you're supposed to, like, get fresh air when you have COVID. So it was like, crossing the street to avoid people, but trying to walk for as long as I could. And I walked for like an hour, and I could have gone a lot longer, but I was getting bored. Like I was like... When I was nearly 17, my friends and I created a sketch comedy show called Righteous TV. The bulk of its production happened during those aforementioned independent studies, but we also worked plenty of off hours. The TV station director, Peter P1, the same one that I'd emailed as a 13-year-old, he became our most important patron and defender. He oversaw our independent studies, and he hung out with us for as long as we wanted, letting us make whatever we wanted, while gently guiding us on the fundamentals of shot composition and the 180-degree rule. He was a retired engineer, I think. His past was very mysterious, and even his age was unclear. Like, he was probably about 70, but could have also been 150. But he loved running that TV station, and he loved us. Peter P1. He's still with us, which probably rules out that he was 150 when I was 17, but not necessarily. So, Righteous TV. It was a news sketch show, like SNL if Weekend Update happened throughout the whole episode. We satirized a lot of the school system goings-on. I remember some good jokes about standardized testing. And because I was writing most of it, we also had lots of weird meta riffs on the process of making a TV show. We had a storyline once where, like, a piece of equipment that allowed us to broadcast live became sentient and ran away from the studio. It was called Latronics, and I think I wrote that just because Jory clearly thought the name was funny, which it is, Latronics. Our show initially aired once or twice a week, but once we had 10 or 15 episodes, the station started running them all the time in these 2 and 3 hour blocks. I worked bussing tables at a local bar, and all the regulars knew and loved the show. They would quote bits back to me, usually incorrectly. Our show ended up driving a lot more interest in the TV station, and so lots of kids took that multimedia class, and some even got in on our independent studies scheme, although nobody took it as far as me. And this ended up leading to the creation of local film festivals, where we would get to show 5 or 6 sketches to a couple hundred people in an auditorium. We would actually host a lot of these festivals, which led to Jory and I hosting pretty much everything at our high school. Talent shows, pep rallies, senior night. By the time I was 18 years old, I was absolutely comfortable standing in front of an audience of hundreds of people and talking to them. I got used to the way that laughter sounded from a stage, kind of airless and hollow, almost like it's playing backwards. Unless you really surprised an audience with a joke, when the laughter would almost knock you over. It would be so loud and sudden and sharp.
Jory is how I found you, because I found in high school I was watching Is It a Good Idea to Microwave This? Yeah. And then that led me to Angry Films Productions, which led, I think everybody like left that was in Angry Films Productions, and it just became you. Mm-hmm. And then you posted that you got a Tumblr, and I added you on Tumblr, and you added me back, and then we became friends.
Yeah. It's amazing how much stuff started with the microwave show. And it's also funny because there are a lot of people that still think I was like involved in that somehow. And I really wasn't. Like John, the guy that Jory did that show with, I've met him one time in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Which it was like, we went on a trip to LA together. So it was kind of like pretty intense. Like we were around each other a lot for like 4 days. And now he has 2 kids about the same age that I do. So we actually like have a pretty good like dad social media friendship.
Sure.
But I've basically never met him. And it's so funny because people are like, I remember when you were on the microwave show, and I'm like, that's really funny that you remember that, because it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like that, I feel like it's okay. I mean, I've talked to dozens of people that are like, yeah, I found you through that, and that was 17 years ago. No, it's been 15 years, 15 years ago.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe more.
Wild. Amazing. Okay. So what's your favorite song?
So this one's a little easier. In high school, it's not much easier, but in high school, it was The Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen. That was it for a long time. But now I think it's War of the Hearts by Schrader.
And why is it your favorite song? Like, what quality does it have that sort of like brings it to that upper echelon?
Well, War of the Hearts is like one of those songs that takes you on a journey. It's pretty long, and it's Sade, first of all, so it's just like angelic and incredible, but there's like so many instruments happening, and you can just kind of like envision it playing live, and just so many people, and just like the layers of instrumentation and the building and the theatrics. But it's also just a vibe. Like the tempo is so kind of like groovy and vibey, and it's perfect. You should definitely listen to it as soon as possible.
I do that. I do the like envision something being performed live thing a lot. That's a big aspect to my enjoyment of music a lot of the time.
Or imagining the music video,
Yeah. And like I also feel like my understanding of like playing music is like it's at the right level where I don't know that much, but I know like a little bit. It's like perfect for
the right level.
Yeah. It's like perfect for enjoying stuff, because like you sort of know how people do it,
yes,
but not quite.
I'm with you. I think I'm there too.
All right. That's a good answer.
Thank you. What about you?
It changes all the time.
Huh?
My favorite song like changes all the time.
What is it right now?
I mean, like one of my all-time favorites is Wolf Like Me by TV on the Radio.
Of course.
I also really love a song called Farewell Transmission by Songs Ohio.
I know that song.
Yeah. And then the song that right now I keep listening to over and over again compulsively and thinking this is the greatest song ever written is Let Down by Radiohead.
Okay.
I just watched the show The Bear that I really loved. And it's like it's like the closing song of the show. And it's just one of those things where I've heard that song a ton of times, I mean, like that listening to that album for like 25 years. But when somebody takes a song like that and like puts it in a new context or like puts another level of emotion into it for you, it gives it back to you. Like this song that I definitely heard a lot and enjoyed, but probably not as much as other songs on OK Computer. Like it's been like given back to me with like someone else's eyes. And so I love that. Like I love being able to hear it that way. And it's like I've never heard it before. A song that I've heard 100 times, or no, thousands of times probably. I'm hearing like it's like a brand new song to me. And I'm just like I can't believe I didn't like note it. I'm in another like Radiohead renaissance right now. So
okay, so what's it called again? It's Radiohead, and it's what?
Yeah, it's called Let Down is the song. There's also a pretty good reggae cover of Let Down.
Okay.
This is something that's so fun. Like I think my wife Christy, she has always picked up on this since we were teenagers. Which is that sometimes people like what you do for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And she would always point out when people would talk to me about like videos that I had done or that kind of thing, and they would kind of like they would misquote what I had done or said back to me in a way that was like they actually misunderstood it, kind of thing. And she would be like, doesn't that suck? Don't you wish you could kind of like take them back through it again and get them to get it? But you can't. Like, so much of experiencing this stuff is subjective. And but I think it taught me to really appreciate like the people that get it, and to trust those people.
Yeah, I'm desperately looking for people like that in my life, because I feel like I'm constantly praised by people that have no ability to determine whether what I'm doing has any quality or not. And it just feels like completely hollow. And I know that they mean well, but it's like, it's just so hard to find like feedback that feels like meaningful to me.
I think there's like a bunch of tiers.
Yeah.
There's like polite applause, which is like, I physically recognize that you, an artist, created something. I don't see it or think about it or know anything about it, but I appreciate that it exists. Like, TLDR. That's like the bottom level, right? And then it's like, there's a middle tier where it's like, even if people don't necessarily understand everything you're doing, sometimes they get enough of it for it to feel good. And then there's people who like absolutely see you, and that obviously feels the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because I always want to like talk shop, like chop it up. And I am lucky that at my job, there are people who understand like the visual stuff a lot. There's people who understand the writing stuff a lot too.
Yeah.
And I really love those conversations where you're just like talking about a sentence.
I know. I miss that. It leads me to like just be so mistrustful of any kind of praise,
Yeah. I know. I think I was like that for a while, and I think I've a little bit like learned to adjust for inflation or something.
Yeah.
Because I think I get in my work especially, I get a lot of like self validation, and so that helps. That really helps boost the value.
It's very hard to set aside self-loathing and like actually listen to a person, because that person's opinion is worth your time and respect, and you really got to just, I'm saying in a second, but I'm really talking about myself. Got to get over myself and my own issues to appreciate what this person is like bringing forward for me.
What's something that you've done at work recently that you feel like proud of, or what's something that you are doing right now that you're like, this is what I'm working on and I'm proud of how it's going?
Man.
You gotta check like what you're doing.
Yeah, I gotta look at what we posted recently.
Let me pull up. We use Monday.com. Let me pull up Monday and see what's on the board.
I feel like there are these. I feel like I really like will nail a particular shot in terms of like, oh, the exposure is great and the white balance is perfect, and like kind of these basic stuffs of filmmaking and like photography. And I just know that like nobody who I'm showing this to knows any, like they don't even know these terms. And it's like, I know that you're saying I did it like, oh yeah, I agree, this looks cool, but it's like, I don't know, seems very like vain or arrogant to be like, it's cool that you like what I did, but I want someone smarter than you to tell me how great I am.
It's so funny that you would talk about like white balance and exposure and like shot composition and stuff, because I actually feel like professionally right now I'm like running in the other direction.
Yeah.
I feel like I got a couple of notes from people about like the way certain shots were lit and that kind of thing, and I was like, yeah, I'm not good at that, And so I've been kind of trying to go into this kind of more like run and gun format with the way that I'm recording things. And that's actually what I'm proud of right now, is the way that I can kind of show up with like 2 cameras and no plan.
Yeah.
And kind of figure something out on the fly.
I think it's even becoming difficult to get quality content to people because it just seems like the bandwidth for delivery methods, whether that be YouTube or any of these other platforms, is not keeping pace with our ability to like capture like quality stuff. Like you can film pretty much everything in like 4K or like ProRes raw video and all these other things, but it's like it's going to get compressed to hell as soon as you post it somewhere anyway. So you're better off sticking with like 1080 for everything.
Right. I've had that trouble with a GoPro. You know, like it's like you got to really jump through hoops to get it to look okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right that it's like, we're on the what our phones can do with video looks great on our phones.
Yes.
And nowhere else.
But wait, I mean, where do you even watch it now? I mean, I recently discovered the other night. This was like I had no idea, but like if you have like a Mac and you're watching Netflix on your computer, like through a browser, if you're on Chrome and you're watching Netflix, it throttles it at 720. So you couldn't watch Netflix in 4K on like a Mac if you wanted to. Anyway, you'd have to go to a TV or something. I had no idea until I bought like a really expensive computer. And I'm like, why does this look terrible?
Yeah, I have 2 MacBooks, and Netflix looks way better on the older one than it does on the newer one. So it's probably just a matter of like how, I mean, I'm the kind of person who I think that it used to look better on my tube TV than it looks on a high def TV. We were in Cape Cod last week, and I had access to like broadcast TV for the first time in a very long time, since the last time I was in a hotel, basically. So I was doing a lot of channel flipping, you know, and just like trying out TV shows. I'd never seen Bob's Burgers before. I watched an episode. I was like, cool, I'm in. Yeah. A bunch of the Avengers movies were on like TNT. So for like a few nights in a row, I was like rewatching, you know, like Age of Ultron or whatever. And it's so funny because I'm watching the TV and I'm like, oh, motion smoothing is on. Like I got to turn this off, like Tom Cruise says. Yep. So I go into the settings on the TV and I turn off motion smoothing, but then I look back and it looks the same. It's airing on TNT with motion smoothing. Like,
So I recently watched the movie Licorice Pizza, which I gathered when it hit theaters back in 2021 was regarded as a lesser work from Paul Thomas Anderson, kind of a slight curiosity. I did not think of it that way. Licorice Pizza, to me, felt like maybe the first time ever that my youth was being reflected back at me by a film. And it's probably what's causing me to reflect back on my youth on the show today. Now, Licorice Pizza takes place in 1973, and it's about a kid named Gary Valentine, played by Cooper Hoffman, son of the late, great Philip Seymour. There's not an actor that I miss more. Gary's a teenage hustler, and he's constantly chasing one scheme into another. When we meet him, he's a working actor. He's doing stage shows for a character who's meant to evoke like a late career Lucille Ball. And thanks to that gig, he's got enough cachet and swagger around town to impress Alana Kane, a 25-year-old woman who comes into his high school on school picture day. Now, not for nothing, but my wife is older than me and used to work as a school photographer. She's not that much older than me. That's not how we met, but still. So, hijinks ensue. Gary gets an early lead on the newly invented waterbed, and he and Alana start a business selling them, which he later parlays into a pinball arcade after getting early word that they're about to become legalized in California. It's a movie about keeping your ear to the ground, for sure. And along the way, he's moonlighting as a PR consultant for local restaurants and helping local politicians record campaign ads. A lot of the reviews of the film questioned how Gary was able to do all of this. Where did he get the money? Where were his parents? Now, when I was in high school, writing and producing a TV show for school credit, my friends and I also did things like, we printed t-shirts for our show and we sold them in the hallways at school. We also signed up for a float in the 4th of July parade and fired some of the t-shirts out of a potato gun that Jory had built. We used the money from the t-shirt sales to finance our senior prank, which was an elaborate disruption of the school day involving glow sticks, a sound system, and zip tying every locker in the building shut. Not long after, with some of the same PVC pipe from the potato gun and the zip ties from the prank, we built a projection screen in my friend Ryan's backyard. And after a few days of inviting friends and neighbors over for backyard movie screenings, we took it community-wide. We moved the projection screen to a parking lot at our school, set up a sound system, and did a series of weekly drive-in movies for free which dozens of cars came to. I want to stress that all of this probably cost around $400 total. I think that's what we made selling shirts. Most of our sound equipment was given to us for free. Lots of the adults in town love my brother Morgan and love to give him free equipment. He and I both still have tons of it. The point is, I didn't have a hard time understanding how Gary Valentine was pulling this shit off. That's what my life was like too, and it was pretty cool. I've said a bunch of times on this podcast that I'm afraid of thinking about the past, and I think maybe that's sometimes given people the idea that I had a difficult life. Obviously, I have not. I mean, my friends and I did argue a lot about which movies we were going to show at the drive-in, but other than that, I guess I was always worried about thinking too much about the past because, you know, I thought of it as like a vacuum that you get sucked into thinking about the glory days and nothing would ever feel as good again. There is a little bit of that in Licorice Pizza, like a suggestion that maybe things won't always be this way for Gary. It ends with one of the all-time great end credits needle drops, a song by Taj Mahal called Tomorrow May Not Be Your Day.
Hey, if it's love you want, then you better be lovable. If it's smile you want, better get to smiling. If it's good times you want, baby, get your good times now.
I got to college with most of the skills that I developed in high school still intact. I remember I made a strong impression on orientation weekend. There was some kind of skit or something, and I think I performed a cover of Destiny's Child's Say My Name on the piano. That shit killed in 2006, let me tell you. But it gradually receded from my life after that. I kept making videos, of course. I mean, YouTube was just getting started. And I did some writing and editing on this on-campus Daily Show type broadcast, which was on North Philly Public Access. But before long, it had all moved online and away from the world and the physical systems in which I soon found myself, you know, colleges, nonprofits, early professional jobs. It was harder to fit my arms around those and find the cracks in which I probably belonged. So I fell out of my lane. I got less joy from the things that I was doing. A decade of being on YouTube was a story of increasingly dispiriting and diminishing returns. I do think I spent a good chunk of my 20s depressed, although I would not blame much of that on my creative outlets. I think a lot of it had to do with leaving the educational system and not knowing what to do next, and drinking too much and having a hard time maintaining friendships. And then, I got my life back on track. In many ways, this podcast has been the story of how that happened, how I found my footing as an adult, set out into my community, and built a career. Which is one of the reasons I've avoided looking back on this show in particular. This show is about the road ahead. But I'm starting to see the professional developments that I've experienced over the course of the last 3 years as really a continuation of, or a return to, that same path that I was on in high school. My career and my volunteer work has put me back in front of audiences at a regular rate, and I excel enough at my job to be afforded the same kind of community trust that I had as a teenager. As a teenager, it felt like getting away with something, but as an adult, it feels earned. A lot of the time when I'm speaking to audiences now, it's about that kind of thing, about finding your voice and aligning your career with your values and talents. But when I talk to people about that stuff, I never go quite as far back as I did today, so I'd never quite put together the full timeline of it until now. I don't know if I'd ever have grasped it if I hadn't taken this time to look back. So maybe there is a place for nostalgia after all. Anyway, thanks for listening. Back soon.